Defining culture. So, what is culture? In everyday usage, the word culture refers to a desirable quality we can acquire by attending a sufficient number of plays and concerts and visiting art, museum, and galleries. Anthropologists, however, have a different definition, as Ralph Linton explained. So for me, culture is the beliefs, behavior, object, and other characteristic shared by groups of people. Given this, someone could very well say that they are influenced by internet culture. Culture could be based on shared gender, custom values, or event object. For example, Christmas tree can be considered a ceremonial or cultural object. They are representative in a both Western religious and commercial holiday culture. In addition, cultural group thinks their practices are behavioral patterns. For example, in some countries like China, it is acceptable to stare at other in public or to stand very close to others in a public spaces. How can you capture cultural dynamics? In the early 21st century world, the culture that we used to take for granted as a part of the immutable reality seems to be changing. Call them globalization or culture change. Whatever drives the shared impression of the changing world, the dynamic movement of culture is a critical question facing humanity today. Whereas the classics of social science were born out of the observation of cultural changes in the 19th and early 20th century, often called modernization or industrialization. Social science is again spurred by the contemporary experience of a changing life. There are, however, critical, theoretical, and methodological. Speaking of modernization or industrialization, it is transformation from a tradition rural agrarian society to a secular urban industrial society. Modern is it is by undergoing the comprehensive transformation of industrialization that societies become modern. What is cultural change? Cultural change is defined as a change in the set of non-genetic information available, accessible, and applicable in the group. So, cultural change can have many causes, including the environment, technological invention, and contact with other culture. Cultural ideas may transfer from one society to another through diffusion or acculturation. It has been sometimes called repositioning of culture, which means the reconstruction of the cultural concept of a society. For example, of culture change, the economy, globalization, war, disaster, rights, freedom law. The example of economy, a nation with a large middle class typically has a significant pool of talent who are pursuing creative careers in areas such as architecture. Cultural dynamics then is an investigation of how a culture, thus defined, is formed, maintained, transformed over time. So a person who grows up in a one culture is not tied down to that culture. If that person moves to a completely different area and it takes on all the cultural values therein, he or she can be viewed as a part of that new culture. What is phenomena of cultural dynamics? Phenomena of cultural dynamics that culture interact and change, they will have problems adapting to changing environments. If one component in the system change, it is likely that the entire system must adjust. Speaking of phenomena, are those that occur or manifest without human input, which can spread in a society, such as religious ritual, a genre of art. There are at least four basic sources of cultural dynamics: the importation, invention, selection, and drift. First is importation. New culture information that has a list of filters shared by another nation can be transmission from the latter. Second is invention. New cultural information that has not existed in the culture of a group is added to the culture without importation. It means on new details that has not existed in a group, it is added to the culture without introducing new goods, customs, or ideas into a country from another country. Third is cultural information is selection. Cultural information is selected in four-factor reproduction or selected out to be removed from a culture. And fourth, random process produce a change over time. Speaking of prevalence of cultural, it means the percentage of individuals affected by the disease at a particular time or information over time.